We'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Kingman City Council held at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Turn some time over to our city clerk, Annie Meredith, for roll call.
Mayor Watkins.
Here.
Vice Mayor Samily.
Here.
Councilmember Dykens.
Here.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Staley.
Present.
Councilmember Walker. Here. Councilmember Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Is our orator here, Clerk Meredith? I don't see.
I do not see him with us this evening.
Okay. If we could all stand in for a moment of silence, and then after which we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Saley. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And once again, welcome everybody who is here and participating in chamber in person or watching via the internet. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. Item number 1, call to the public. Comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The council may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The council may direct the city manager to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on a future agenda. We have a couple citizens that would like to speak tonight. Ms. Margie Hoff, she'd come forward.
Mayor.
Oh,
Those are for item 3B.
I'm sorry, they are. I'm sorry, Annie, you're right. They're
It's okay.
on 3B.
We did not have
We didn't have
anybody
anybody.
sign up to address you
Thank
during
you.
call to the public.
Sorry about that. Item number 2, consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Council, we have items A through H. Have we all had a chance to take a look at them, and do we have any questions that we need to pull that item? Councilor Saley?
Oh, no, I did review them.
Okay. Anybody else? Can we have a motion? Oh, Councilor Dykens.
H.
You'd like to pull item number H? Okay. Any further then? Seeing none, if we can have a motion approving on our consent agenda items 2A through G.
So moved.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item H, authorize a letter of support for the Arizona Community Foundation Route 66 grant application. The Arizona Community Foundation, in cooperation with the Historic Route 66 Association of Arizona, are seeking applications from local, state, and tribal governments, nonprofit organizations, and educational institutes for projects that aim to preserve, promote, and protect Route 66 in Arizona. The city intends to apply for $50,000 to install 5 windows on the south side of the Powerhouse building and install lighting at the new dog park located on site. To complete a full proposal, the grant application requires full support from our city council. City staff is asking council to support the project and authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Arizona Route 66 grant cycle application. Staff recommends approval. Councilor Dykens.
The letter says this is designed to aim to preserve, promote, and protect Route 66 in Arizona, which I am absolutely all in favor of. But I just am curious to find out, how do 5 windows going into the south side of Powerhouse meet that? And how favorable is that going to be for actually getting awarded a grant?
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Dykens, so this is a grant that's administered by the Route 66 Foundation, and we work with the Route 66 Foundation. They are actually in the powerhouse. They have a portion of the powerhouse and help support us there. The powerhouse is the location of the Route 66 Museum. I think even the state recognizes it as, you know, the state's Route 66 Museum. So the museum there features, it's actually a pretty amazing museum if you haven't been through it yet, but it features the history of Route 66, you know, throughout the years, chronology of Route 66. And part of that tour through the museum, you end up in the lower portion of the building. You walk through where currently all the electric vehicle museums are stored. And that portion of the building is where those windows would be, where the vehicles are stored. So the building, it's a historic building. This would help bring back, you know, those windows. Those windows have, you know, over the years were broken out and they've been boarded up in subsequent years. So this basically takes those boards out, puts those windows up, and helps restore that building even more.
So there are existing windows, it's just we're going to repair and make it look better.
Yes, so
Okay.
where windows used to be way back when it was a functioning powerhouse, they've since been boarded up, so this will place those windows back in there.
Yes, Counselor.
Is that dog park gonna be on the south side as well?
Mayor, Councilman Savage, so the dog park is actually, we've already fenced off the dog park, so it's actually between the powerhouse where the electric vehicle museums are, electric vehicle charging stations are, and the locomotive park. You'll see some black wrought iron along over there. That's where the dog park is, so this will just provide some additional lighting in there.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, any further questions? Counselor Dykens, if that answers your questions, would you like to make a motion on this?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the letter of support. Do I have to keep reading? 'Cause
You're fine. For item
I don't know
H,
how to find it.
item 2H on our consent agenda.
Well, I mean, on the new system yet. Let's see. I'd like to authorize a letter of support for the Arizona Community Foundation Route 66 grant application.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 3, action items. Item 3A, review and discuss areas for possible annexation. The City Council has expressed an interest in exploring annexation. At the November Strategic Planning and Priority Setting Retreat, staff presented the City Council with a report identifying possible areas for consideration and each of their underlying development assumptions and cost versus benefit analysis. Since then, another area has been discussed and added to the report. City staff will summarize the report's findings for each of the areas, and of course, it's at our discretion. Tina Moline, our Finance Manager and Deputy City Manager, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. So the report this evening was shared with you at the November Strategic Planning and Priority Setting Work Session. And we've got it to present this evening because there have been a couple of updates made to it. So we want to be sure that we give you the most up-to-date and current information relating to annexation. Additionally, we want to present it at a council meeting, so if there's any direction that you want to provide to staff, we can take that and move forward with it. So over the last 5, 6, probably even 7 years, we've talked about annexation, and there have been a variety of different areas that have been talked about with the council. And so what we looked at are these areas in this report. I'll cover them quickly. We have one of the areas that we're calling Area 1A, which is the Industrial Park Phase 1. That's the existing industrial park as it is today. We also have another area, 1B, which is the airport, the future industrial park, what we refer to as Phase 2, and some commercial businesses along Route 66 that we refer to as the Route 66 Commercial Corridor. We also have an area 2A that is Gordon to Butler Avenue, which is just north of Northern, between Stockton Hill and Bank Street. We have the area that Kingman High School resides on, so that state land area, that entire section. Mojave Community College's small area that they own just off of Jagerson. And a new area since the last presentation that we shared with you in November, which we're referring to as the East Wallapai Foothills area. It's important to know that as we looked at the cost benefits for these areas, that we looked at a 15-year development period. So the assumptions that we're using are just in that 15-year time frame for all of the areas that we looked at. I should also point out that in your packets is the full report as well for any more details that you might want to refer to. So a quick map of the areas. We have our 1A areas highlighted in orange, 1B is purple, 2A is the light green, 2B is this area. It's where the Kingman High School is, and I do want to point out there's just a small triangular area that we included in addition to the state land. The Mojave College area up here, and then the new area that is all of these squares and shapes. So it is east of Wallapai Foothills, and it extends from south of I-40 to just south of Wallapai Mountain Road. So it encompasses actually about 1,600 acres. So we will cover the first area. So as part of this presentation, certainly we're looking to see, does it make financial sense to annex any of the areas? And of course, there are many other reasons to annex, but one of the reasons we want to look at is financially, does it make sense? So as we go through each of them, you'll notice a check mark on any of the slides that seem to make at least financial sense. So Area 1A, Industrial Park Phase 1. Quick description, 92% of that existing park is already built out. So as far as future development, 8% of the remaining park can be built out in 15 years, and there is no residential development. And so as I go through these and I talk about residential development or not, just know that if there is residential development, we get state shared revenues. If there is not, we get no state shared revenues. So just know that as we go through these slides. So the revenues that are impacted for this area are sales tax. So of course, any sort of construction related fees and taxes will be received in this area. We also have businesses there, so we'll have some nominal business license fees. Water fees are going to be impacted. We do provide water to our customers outside of city limits, but they pay a higher rate. So if those customers are inside city limits, then our water rates would be impacted and our revenues would be impacted. And then as far as the services that would be impacted and the costs that would be incurred, streets, we would have to maintain the streets. We'd have to provide police and fire protection, development services. They will be impacted, and our court, although they're not dealing with individual population cases, there's a big workforce out there, and so court will also be impacted. And so what does that look like as far as the actual fiscal impact? Well, we'd be adding about 18.5 employees in year one. There would be no future employees needed over the 15-year term, just in year one. And so as far as the general fund is concerned, in the first year, you'll notice that there is a loss of $4.5 million, and that continues to accumulate over the 15 years, that by year 15, we end up losing $38 million in the general fund. And then, of course, we also have to consider the impact on streets, and you'll see what that looks like as well. So there is no check mark on this slide, so it does not make financial sense to move forward with annexing that area. The next area is the actual airport itself, the new industrial park that is vacant land currently, and that Route 66 commercial corridor. So looking at that area, there is a lot of developable land. So we have 790 acres in the land release area. On the airfield, we have another 360 acres, and then along Route 66, there's even more land. So we're assuming that over the 15-year period, just over 50% of that land will be developed. And again, no residential development in this area. So the revenues impacted are very similar to the existing industrial park. The services impacted will be slightly different. Streets, definitely. Police protection, definitely. Development services and engineering is brought into the mix in this area. So what does that look like? We would end up adding 5 FTEs over the 15-year period. And as far as the overall general fund fiscal impact, you'll see that at 15 years, we will have accumulated a sufficient generation of revenues of $30.6 million. Now, some of those are one-time revenues, but we will have generated more than $30.6 million in excess of what we would need to spend. And although there is not enough revenues in the HERF fund, and normally I would not be a proponent of utilizing one-time revenues to cover ongoing costs, there is a sufficient amount of one-time revenues here. So if it was the council's will to utilize some of those monies to get us through 15, 20, and even 25 years, I believe, then certainly this would make financial sense to move forward with this area. 2A, I shared it before I started this presentation. I shared that we needed to make some updates to this report. And so we are making a slight update to this area. So this is the area between Gordon and Butler Avenue, Stockton Hill, and Bank Street. There's 238 acres of commercial property. Most of it is already developed. Now, there is residential property in this area. Most of those properties have been developed. One change that we made in this report that is going to make a difference, and you will see it on the next slide, is that originally we shared that this is already populated with over 5,000 people. When we went back to the drawing board, we realized that that is not the case. It is actually only 1,700 people in this area. So we'll see how that looks on the next slide. The revenues impacted, though, are across the board. There's residential population, so we're getting state shared revenues in addition to all of the other taxes, not just construction type related fees and taxes, but online tax and utilities tax and franchise fees and all of those types of fees. Different with this area, because there is residential development, we are required to provide solid waste service to our customers inside city limits, so the solid waste system would also be impacted. The services that we provide in this area would be across the board. The city attorney would require staffing, court, police, fire, parks. Mojave Wash is in that area, so our parks department would be maintaining that area. Development services, streets, and solid waste. So many services are impacted. So what does that look like? So 15.5 FTEs would be added over the 15-year period, and it is a very different picture than what we shared with you in November. So the general fund fiscal impact, although we are generating sufficient revenues over that 15-year period, it definitely isn't enough to cover the HERF expenses over that period. Hence, the reason that it doesn't make financial sense to move forward with this area. 2B is the state land area where the Kingman High School is. So a lot of undeveloped property. It's almost 700 acres when you take into account that triangle just north of the state land. There will be residential and commercial development in that area. We are assuming that development won't start until year 11 of that 15-year period. There would be residential and commercial, so again, we would receive state shared revenues and all of those other revenues that I alluded to in the last area. As far as services impacted, we court, police, park, streets, and solid waste. 5.5 FTEs would be added over that 15-year period, and this particular area doesn't pencil out either. There aren't enough general fund revenues to cover the deficit in the HERF fund over that 15-year period. Mojave Community College. It's a small area. We thought we would just look at it. It's part of our community. It certainly provides service. I don't have major charts and tables to share with you. We know that there would be a reduction in the water user fees. We also know that there would be an increase, certainly in streets, of over $700,000 over that 15-year period. And since there's no residential development, it's really just the sales tax that the college is generating. We don't anticipate it to really pencil out either. Looking at Area 4, which is the East Wallapai Foothills area. So over 1,600 acres of property in that area, mostly residential, some commercial, and there are a small number of existing residential homes. I want to say around 50 or so. We expect residential development to begin at year 5 and commercial development to begin at year 8. Again, residential development is part of this area, so we would receive state shared revenues and all of the revenue sources. It would also require quite a few services: development services, police, streets, and solid waste. I also have parks up here, and I have it as a TBD to be determined. And I have it that way because right now, what we don't have included in here is, in the event the council wants to add a neighborhood park. We've also been talking about the regional trail system, and that would go right through this area. We don't have any costs associated with that system either. So if that was something that the council wanted to approve and fund, then of course parks, there would be some significant costs for parks to maintain those areas, as well as to fund those projects. So as presented, we would add 14 total FTEs over the 15-year period. And this one seems to look a little bit better. So at year 15, we will have in excess of $23.7 million in the general fund. And the cost to maintain the streets at that point are $9.7 million. So we would continue to have excesses for quite a few years. Additionally, our ongoing revenues in the general fund would continue to pay for the ongoing expenditures in the general fund. And there would be some excess there that could continue to be applied towards streets too. So again, I'm not a proponent of one-time revenues, but when there is excess, if it's the council direction to use them towards streets, we could certainly do that for several years after year 15. So from that perspective, it could definitely make sense. So I do want to back up, actually. I'll cover it here. So other considerations. One of them is our permanent base adjustment. It's our expenditure limitation that the state sets on us, meaning we can only spend X number of dollars every single year. So it's something that we need to just be proactive about if we do annex any of the areas. We have plenty of room within our permanent base adjustment limitation right now to take on those additional costs, but just something to think about as we move forward with any of your direction. And then, of course, Northern Arizona Fire District. So Northern Arizona Fire District provides service to some of those areas. And so if we decided to annex and it was approved and became part of the city, the fire district would lose those property tax revenues. We would not gain any property tax revenues because we don't have a property tax, but they would lose those property tax revenues. And depending on which area is annexed, it could be a very significant loss for the fire district. Yes, their costs would go down, but what we found is that the revenues that they would lose would be greater than the savings they would have in costs as well. And that would be for Area 1A and Area 2A. Yes.
Ask you a question about the Northern Arizona Fire District. In Area 4, if you had all of those acres, or even half of them, 700 acres developed into homes, wouldn't NACFED, or it's not called NACFED anymore, but you know what I mean, wouldn't they be required to build another fire station there? Because they don't have anything close other than up Wallapai Mountain Road.
So they don't serve that area. There is no district that serves that area, actually. It's what I believe Chief Yeager refers to as no man's land. So there actually isn't. And I'm glad you pointed that out because there is something with that area as far as fire service. So what the chief has shared is that currently Fire Station 24 can serve this area, but we would not be meeting the response times that NFPA has as, I don't want to say a requirement, but as kind of a best practice or a standard. So the response times would be higher than what NFPA
I can't change that.
Right. So the chief has shared that while we'll be able to serve that area, certainly at some point, not in the 15 years, but at some point, we would need to think about another fire station as that area grows. So
I would assume then that whether it's annexed or not, the city of Kingman is going to have to provide fire service to that area.
Chief?
Is that a nod?
If it's,
Yeah. So we would be providing a significant amount of fire service to an area that is outside of our city because there currently isn't any.
that is correct. Now, if I understand correctly, we would be able to bill for some of those services because it is not, there is no service provided by any other district. So we would at least be able to bill for those calls. I don't know what that looks like.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Speaking of property tax, I know that there has been some conversation that if the city of Kingman had a property tax and we were to annex a couple of these areas that have high assessed valuations, such as 1A, the industrial park, or 2A, the area where that it's already fully developed, what could that look like for the city of Kingman? So just in general, let's just say that we levied a $5 million property tax. If we were to, today, if we were to annex the industrial park as it is, it would generate about 8% more in property taxes. So another $400,000 or so recurring if we were to take the industrial park on, if we had a property tax. In 2A, it would be about $200,000 more a year. Just to give an idea of why we say it's important to have a property tax if you're going to annex, it just generates a lot more additional revenue year over year. So then as far as next steps, certainly if council has any areas that they want to identify to be considered for annexation, then that would be one of the next steps. And then also Development Services Director Mo Quinn would like to come up and share a little bit about what that annexation process looks like and what the timeline entails.
Yes, Counselor Savage.
Tina, before we go up, can you go back to 1B,
Sure can.
please?
Yeah. There or there, Councilman
That's-
Savage?
So that's the airport part that we're gonna be developing, correct?
That's correct.
So most of that's gonna be commercial investment,
Commercial industrial.
so that will be taxed to the city.
So the construction tax would definitely be to the city. Any of the new development fees would be, and then any of the sales tax that they generate, very little probably, but if they generate any sales tax we could collect that. What we assume is that a portion of those properties would be leased, and we would be able to collect the lease tax on that.
Okay, one more question.
Councilmember Savage, can you speak into your mic? They're having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
Right here. On annexing residential areas without much commercial, so to speak, would that be submitted to property tax, or would that have to go through the voters for that annexation for property tax?
Councilman Savage, thank you for your question. Development Services Director Mo Quinn is going to share what that
Okay,
process
okay,
looks like.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions on the information that I've provided so far? Okay. Sorry, Jason, I just don't want to get that big for you.
Mayor, Council, appreciate it. Thank you. So before you tonight, on the overhead for you is just an outline of the city's annexation process. This is an annexation process that's followed by all municipalities throughout the state of Arizona, so it's not just specific to the city of Kingman. The first column really kicks off the process, so should we get direction this evening to move forward, we would start with the development services process by actually creating an application and moving forward with the development review portion of that, where we actually do send it out to our internal departments, which again has already essentially reviewed this, but it also goes out to outside agencies and so forth. That is the initial step. You can consider that to take about 30 to 45 days typically. At the end of that, we would actually come back and file a request with the city council with yourselves to actually move forward with filing of a blank petition. So the blank petition is really the first start for the public hearing portion of this. This is where we would actually file it with the clerk's office or with the county. We would move forward with the process itself. It takes 30 days of a waiting period, and we do have to hold a hearing at the end of that 10-day, within the last 10 days of that hearing process. So essentially, we're now up to about 60 to 75, 85 days. And then after we complete the blank petition process, then we would be doing the harder work, which is where there's properties that are not owned by the city, they're owned by other entities, other individuals. We'd be going out, we'd be collecting signatures and so forth, and really it comes back down to, as shown on this slide here, we have to collect them within within a 1-year period. In addition to that, the required signatures for more than 1/2 of the persons owning real and personal property. And then also, we need from owners 1 or half or more of the value of the real and personal property. So there's some background work that we'd be doing at that point in time. We actually take those values that come from the county. That's how we check that before we can proceed forward. If we're able to check all those boxes, we actually come back before the council for the actual annexation hearing. And I'll see, did I miss anything? Thank you. And Councilman Savage, you had a question in regards to property taxes. Correct. It is my understanding, and Carl, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if they are paying a property tax in the county and they annex into the city and we do not have a property tax in effect, they would not be paying a property tax. Is that-
Yeah.
So it doesn't come with them.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Right, doesn't come with them.
And yeah, they would still be paying all their already assessed taxes from the
Correct.
county, the school district, yeah.
But if, for example, if there were a fire district there, that would fall away because obviously the city is going to take it over.
Yes, and I don't know when it falls away specifically. I don't know if it's
If-
immediate or
It
within
would be the following tax roll.
Okay. So some of the pluses, some of the minuses.
Right, and timing.
So we're talking about how long a process? About a year and
It-
60 to 90 days?
I will
Another quarter?
typically say an annexation process can take upwards to a year. That's within state statute that allows for it to be completed. I've seen them completed in about 9 months,
Okay.
so.
And obviously, our property out at the airport, as we are given that, would be a very easy one because we own it all.
We would own it,
I
correct?
would mention that the property, it can only be property that's taxed. So because we own the property, it's not taxed. We cannot sign a petition to annex our own property into the city limits.
So how would we do that then?
So you have to include another property that would be assessed a tax.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we would have to just open that border up to neighboring property, or we maybe transfer some of that property to somebody else.
Okay.
Which, Mayor, we actually do in that area, the vacant land, we have that Route 66 commercial corridor. So there are other property owners in that area.
Okay.
But they would be the
We'd have to-
driving force.
Right, they would have to sign the petition saying that they want to be part of the city
Correct.
too.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Jason? Yes, Councilor Saley.
I'm not sure if this is for you, but I'm looking at the map for Section 4 on Wallapai Mountain Road. And I know when this was initially talked about, it was just that eastern section, but now I see that we've added south of Wallapai Mountain Road as well to capture that area. I'm just looking at this map, it's a little challenging. So I'm wondering how far down it goes. Does it just meet current city limits on that south side of Wallapai Mountain Road? And how far south does it go? And is this just sort of a general map right now and it isn't specific, or?
So the boundary of this map, so the idea, so initially, we had discussions up between south of Rancho Santa Fe and east of Wallapai Foothills. And looking at it, there was some discussion to take that down to Wallapai Mountain Road as well. And as you look at the area, and you can't see it on this map, but the area, basically, what that does is that pushes city boundaries up to the BLM property. So,
Okay, that
basically, your
helps.
BLM property is your boundary there now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was trying to picture. where this actually is.
So yeah, it
that-
basically
yep.
expands into the county up to that BLM land.
Okay. I think that's a good idea to add that section along Wallapai Mountain Road as well.
Thanks, Counselor Saley, City Manager. Okay, any other questions or comments? So you need direction from us on how, and this is pretty simple. We obviously are only interested in the ones that's gonna make the city money and not cost us money. So we are looking at areas 1B and 4.
If that's the council's direction.
So do we need a motion stating that? Carl?
It would be preferable, yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
I will make a motion that we move forward in the annexation process with 1B, which is our portion of the industrial park and airport, and the new section number 4.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to arm wrestle on that one?
Yeah.
We'll give it to Jim. Okay. Any other question about it? About this motion?
I do have one
I
question.
know I was looking at
I-
Counselor Savage.
My brain thinks too much sometimes. On 4, being it's going south side of Wallapai, north towards Rancho Santa Fe. Does that include the land we need at Rancho Santa Fe, or is that already acquired? Just so the city knows.
Mayor,
Yes, Manager.
Councilman Savage, so are you talking the Rancho Santa Fe interchange?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
but the Area 4 annexation, is that gonna tie into that at all?
So as you, if, we don't have it up there now, but basically on the image, you'll see kind of a roadway going through that section
I saw
4.
that.
That is the continuation of Rancho Santa Fe Parkway to the south.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. And staff, thank you for that report. Item 3B, Rancho Santa Fe Traffic Interchange Rename Submissions. At the February 4th, 2025 meeting, council directed staff to put a survey out to the community to solicit name suggestions for the Rancho Santa Fe Traffic Interchange. Staff has received numerous submissions and has prepared the attached spreadsheet for council's review and consideration. Staff recommends council select names from those submitted for the public to vote on. Tim, turn some time over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So as directed by council at the February 4th meeting, staff put out basically a survey to the public, and it was open from February 10th to February 28th. We received 543 submissions, a whole lot of names there. We've received those names. They've been shared with council, and basically staff would like council's direction as far as at the February 4th meeting. The plan was to put this out for a time till the end of February. We'd bring it back to council. Council would select a number of names to be able to then put back out to the city to identify, basically vote on those names that were selected. So basically of these names, these 543 submissions, we're seeking your input on which ones you'd like the community to vote on, and then we will bring that back. We'll have that open for a couple of weeks, and then we'll bring it back to the April 1st meeting for a final decision by council.
Okay. Now, Tim, you and I had already talked about this, but for clarification and so that the public knows, it was possible for a person to turn in multiple times the same name.
That is correct. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, so this was not a limited, you could only submit one name. You could submit as many names as you'd like. You could submit multiple names. You could submit the same name multiple times. So you will see on the list, there are a number of names that were, submitted multiple times. That could be a number of different people submitting that same name, or it could be the same person that had submitted the same name a number of times. So we don't know that, we don't have that information, but we know that it was possible to submit multiple names.
Okay. So if we, let's say as a council, we select, 3, 5, 7 names, depending on how many we want to select, what's going to keep that from happening again?
So the next survey, and we will ensure that, the next survey will basically have those names listed and be able to only select one of them. So we'll work with IT to make sure that basically that is the case.
There will be a safeguard on that. Okay.
As best possible, you know, there's some
yeah.
pretty talented hackers out there, so.
Very true. Okay, council, discussion or thoughts? How would you like to move forward on this? Counselor Walker, I saw that sigh. Would you like to comment? No comment. Okay. Wanted to make sure everybody's included. Should we pick 3?
Yeah, I think, I mean, a favorite still for me is the Flying Fortress. We had a lot of votes for Rattlesnake, and I also liked Army Airfield. Those would be maybe my top 3.
Well, and of course, and we should put Rancho Santa Fe on there too, because, so maybe we should select it to narrow it down to 5.
Okay,
Because you just named 3 right off the bat and it did not include Rancho Santa Fe.
right.
That was going to be my suggestion. Can we please add Rancho Santa Fe?
Okay, so let's do 5 names? Is that fair for everybody? Counselor Dykens?
Keep going. I'll throw something in a minute.
Okay, I would, as Counselor Staley suggested, I would suggest Rancho Santa Fe exit, Rattlesnake Wash exit, Flying Fortress exit, and I did like the other one what was the other one?
Army Airfield?
Army Airfield, that's a good one too.
Gary Bird got over 80. So if you're going to go majority,
Well, we're not going majority.
all right. Well, I feel bad for the public then.
Well, okay. And I guess I'm being naive. Explain to me, I'm sorry, who is Gary Bird?
I've never heard.
See, that's what I think it's.
He does have some history in Kingman, I believe. I don't recall
You're a
who
Kingmanite.
it was.
so
I am not a
enlighten
Kingmanite.
us.
I am not a Kingmanite. I wish there were someone here that did know the story.
He was a gentleman, I believe he went to high school. Yes.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's
Someone
correct,
Did. That
yeah.
is correct. Okay. I wanted to make sure there was something.
I looked it up. I didn't know it,
Okay.
but I looked it up. because
Well,
of the
that is
amount.
important.
Councilmember Ward, can you please use your mic?
I got it.
Your mic, Counselor Ward. It's good now.
I would just say that, I guess I would caution everybody, if you include one person as to memorialize them by naming the street after them, then how do we deny the other people on this list, the other names, people who gave a lot to the community? Doc Lincolnfelter's on here. Joan McCall. There's several people. And then we didn't talk about using it to memorialize somebody. There's a lot of other great heroes from Kingman, you know, veterans, people who have given their lives in the war. Then you almost need to open it back up to consider that. So I don't know. I just think that wasn't really our intention when we made the motion. We were talking about looking at Kingman's rich history with the airport. So I don't know. I just am afraid that's a can of worms. If you just pick one person, you're kind of denying the other people on this list that were also contributors to our community. Those are just my thoughts.
I agree, Counselor.
Okay.
Anybody? Yes, Counselor Savage.
I did make a mistake at the last meeting. I don't like admitting that too often. As far as my whole goal was, if we were gonna rename this interchange, is to have the community pay for it, not the city pay for it. But I wholeheartedly believe Flying Fortress contributes to thousands and thousands of people that served our country in World War II and died. And that would be an honor for all of them and not just one person. And hopefully the community will step up and donate the money to this. I mean, it's not expensive. It's just the thought of having to rename something and paying $6,500 for it. I'm not totally for. So I did make a mistake there, Cherish. So I'm admitting this to you. So take that into consideration. I want to hopefully honor as many people as we can if we're going to do a name change. If we're not going to do a name change, we don't have to spend the money. I'm good either way, but it's just the point of it. I've always been a history buff, so to speak, from the Revolution to the Civil War to World War I, World War II, and to have that many people come to our city, serve, and die, I think that needs to be a tribute, and I'd like to see that money donated from the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Savage. You bring a valid point. Vice Mayor?
I just had a question for Manager Walsh. How did we represent this to the public when we put it out there? Did we represent it that it was going to be the top so many? Did we just say council discretion? I just want to make sure that we're in line with what we
So that's a great question, and I actually had pulled up, had it a second ago, the press release on it. Basically, let's see, if I can pull that up real quick. I know the discussion at the last meeting was basically we would open it up to receive community input on what those names should be. Those names would come back to council. Council would select 5 to 10 names from that group of names that were submitted, and then it would be put back out to the community to be able to select from those, or basically vote on those names that the council had selected. So that was basically the discussion and the path that we were taking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
Counselor.
Councilman Savage beat me to the punch on this one because I had plans on basically saying very similar. I misunderstood the motion that was made back then. I did like the idea of potentially changing the name if it was a good one. Also very much in favor of the community paying for it, but totally against it if we had to pay for it. That's what I said all along. And then when I voted in favor, which meant in favor of spending the money, which I messed up. I was going to call it as being the new guy on the block, but at least I wasn't the only one. So I still am very much in favor of, if there is a name change, the community donating. If it comes to the city having to pay for it, regardless of the name change, I'm going to hold fast with what I originally stated, that I'm against spending city money, and I'll be voting against it. As
Okay.
much as I would be in favor of Flying Fortress, I love that, but me and B-17s, we really get along. But if it comes to the cost to the city, I will be voting against it at that point.
Okay, Counselor Dykens, we appreciate that statement and clarification. And
Mayor.
likewise, Counselor Savage.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I ask Carl a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the point of order to get a revote for reconsideration?
Well, as I always say, we don't necessarily follow Robert's Rules of Order. Any council person can put an item on the agenda, we all know this. So if a council person wanted to basically reconsider, put that on the agenda, you can either, for discussion, that if we want to change that process, you can either say, we'd like to do a motion to reconsider. We can't really do it, I guess we could do it tonight, that say we want it on the agenda for that discussion. So yeah, we can, before you reach your final decision on name and pricing, you're gonna have a vote, and you're gonna make a decision what you want, even if it's potentially contradictory to what that motion was at the prior council meeting.
So let me
Because that wasn't a final decision.
clarify
Sure.
that before we actually select the name of the interchange, should we decide to change the name, then we will also have an opportunity to vote whether the city pays for that?
You can, however you want to word whatever motion that you want. So
So,
At the-
so let me interrupt you again.
Yes, ma'am.
So the way that the motion was read and voted at the last meeting, the motion was that we, entertain a name change and put it out to the public. And in that same motion, it was also at whatever cost the public, we can't collect from the public as a donation, the city would cover the difference. So you're telling me that that vote is going to be reintroduced?
Well, you can leave it the way it is, or when you come to the next meeting, when we have this topic for discussion, you're going to pick a name and you can pick a funding source. So that decision it was just a projection into the future. It's basically a motion to reconsider without calling it a motion to reconsider.
It wasn't binding.
So it's what
In
the
other words-
whatever the council wants to do, the council will do till you get to your final point where you have to pull the trigger. But if you want to call it a motion to reconsider, you're more than welcome.
And this is why I wanted it separate
No, I understand.
from the beginning.
So you can address it separately
Okay.
at the next
So
meeting.
you're saying at the next meeting?
And if you,
Okay.
right, and if you want to call it a motion to reconsider, you can definitely put that on the next meeting. You would make whoever was in the prevailing side, which is all of you, because I think all of you voted to support it, you would say, we're making a motion to reconsider that vote. Does anybody support that motion? Then yes, you support that motion. Then you would
Okay,
vote on
so
it.
I was the dissenting vote, so it
Oh,
would
I
have to be,
apologize.
it would have to be the other two that would want a motion to reconsider.
Have to be.
Correct.
Yeah, any of the other, whoever was here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
That supported.
Thank you for that.
We actually have a couple citizens who would like to comment on this, and so if we could invite them up. Ms. Margie Hoff.
Mayor Watkins, Vice Mayor Semelli, and City Council, here I am again. Thank you for this opportunity. First off, I am a member, resident of the Rancho Santa Fe Parkway, or Rancho Santa Fe Development. I stand in favor of changing the name. I am a proponent of changing it back to Rattlesnake Wash. I'm not sure why it was changed in the first place. If you Google Rancho Santa Fe, you'll get everything except for Kingman. We're way down the list, like 30 or 40 before we get to Kingman. It's quintessentially California, and I moved from there, so I'm against bringing back California. As Cherish mentioned in our last meeting, there's an exit right down the road that's almost identical, Santa Fe Ranch Road. I think we have more imagination than that. And the other point is that this road isn't going to service just Rancho Santa Fe. It's going to service Southern Hills, Southern Vista, the new developments that are going in that area. It's kind of exclusionary to leave all those out and just pick Rancho Santa Fe, I think. My main point, though, is that tourism is very important to this town, and Route 66 is part of that. The reason I like Rattlesnake Wash so much is that it will be noticed. People will notice it. It will show up on Facebook pages and everything else. I think that will actually be an asset to Kingman, and bring in tax dollars, bring in tourism dollars, because people will want to associate with that. There will be pictures all over Facebook. I provided each of you a copy of the petition I previously supplied a copy of. This one actually has one more page, and there is highlighted yellow. I think there's 93 signatures on there, plus 2 that actually signed twice. And the highlighted yellow are members of the Rancho Santa Fe development. I put out 2 Facebook pages, posts, well, actually 1 Facebook post and 1 Nextdoor Rancho post. I put it on the Kingman Rancho Santa Fe page, and I got a lot of those signatures from those 2 Facebook posts, and I did this in 2023, and it was suggested that maybe I hold off until these proceedings came along, so I kind of dropped it. So all those are about 1.5 years old. And I also took it to some of my clubs and had that signatures available there and to the place where I work. I just think that Rancho Santa Fe is boring, and I think we can do a lot better. I'm actually in favor of Flying Fortress. If it can't be Rattlesnake Wash, I I prefer Flying Fortress to that, but I just like to see Rancho Santa Fe go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoff. One of our county board of supervisors, Mr. Don Martin, would you like to come up?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. I'm Don Martin. I'm not here as a board of supervisor. I'm here as a 20-plus year resident of Rancho Santa Fe. My concern, I had a couple, I thought we were going to get some numbers tonight to see what the breakdowns were, because I'm frankly curious. I mean, they said they got 93 names on a petition. I want to know how many of those are from where? How many Rancho Santa Fe people? And I spoke to one of the developers tonight, and I asked him how many houses, how many residences are in Rancho Santa Fe, which just is right there. And he said he didn't have the exact number, but he thought it was thousands. Now, if there's 36,000 people in Kingman, if I understand it right, and there's another 60,000 surrounding. If people weighed in on this, and you had 500 people that weighed in, but you had multiple people that made in, I mean, what does that tell you as a council about how people are excited or not excited about this? You have potentially 100,000 people that could have weighed in on this name change. And how many did? Not very many when you look at it statistically. But, and like I say, I was really hoping that, I could see tonight how many people who lived in our subdivision there actually weighed in on this. And I didn't know you could vote twice, 3 times. So we don't know that. And then I was told that the money had already been raised to pay for that. I'd like to see who donated it. And I mean, if you're donating money for a project, I think the public has a right to look at those names and figures and say Bill Smith donated $500 to pay for the name change. So like I say, I think that when you look at the totality of this, and then I noticed that your staff wrote proposed Rancho Santa Fe traffic interchange. Everything in the city says this. This was said by your staff, that this was the name of this place, right? I never saw anything in reading through this where one of your staff said, this is Rancho Santa Fe, but it could be something else. It's not in the information. And what I really thought was cool was it said, once completed, the new traffic interchange, which people are saying we need this to separate from other places. The new traffic interchange will provide for the development of thousands of acres for commercial and distribution. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of residential people excited about that.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, council. I think we have 4 names narrowed down. Is there a 5th that we want to choose? Do we want to expand it any more than that? Because we've already established a process and how it's going to go. And of course, at this meeting, once we get the numbers back, then we will also figure out the financial part of what will happen. Because, and some of it, if there's no one stepping forward to pay for any of it, then the name won't change at all.
Right.
So,
I'll make a motion to keep it where it's at right now. And provided we get the votes in and the money raised to change it, I will go with that. I don't want the city paying for this.
okay. Do you have certain names you want to put on this survey?
well, you know
And
what I
Carl,
want.
Carl, is that verbiage?
I'm gonna apologize, I'm not sure what that motion was.
The motion was to move forward with a possible name change, provided it's paid for by the constituents.
And
If we do not get that money raised, I propose to keep it where it's at right now.
are you adding like particular names? at this point?
We need
or-
to select. we need to
Well,
select-
I
Or are you
want
just
Flying
doing the motion
Fortress,
separate?
and Jamie laid out a few names there. So let's leave it up to our citizens. If they want to change it, they'll pay for it. If not, we're going to keep it the same. That's where I feel.
True, but we need to pick out 4 or 5 names tonight. So I think we've,
And if you want to do that separate from that motion, you can do that. That might be clean, that might be kind of what the vice chair was talking about.
That's true.
Having
Vice Mayor
that
was-
separated, the name itself from,
and that sort of answers your question too. I mean, there will not be a name change unless there's funding for it, basically. So. we have a
Carl,
mo-
this item is
Yes.
just
I'm
to
looking,
choose
yeah.
the submissions.
yeah, I see, I'm looking at that now.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
true.
so we can't do it till the next one if you want to do that.
Right, so Counselor Savage, your motion, we
Declined.
appreciate it, so if you could, remove that. So, Counselor Saley mentioned, well, we've mentioned Flying Fortress as one of them, Rancho Santa Fe exit as another one,
Rattlesnake,
Rattlesnake Wash, and
Army Airfield.
the Army Airfield Boulevard. I mean, the particulars, whether it's road or boulevard, we could,
Figure that out later.
we can finish that small detail at the end. But that's 4. Is there another name? As Jamie pointed out, we just need to select names tonight in what we're doing. Any other name that you want to include?
I'm good.
Those, are those 4 fine? If we're fine with those 4,
I'm fine with those.
I'm fine.
okay, so that's that, I'll make that motion. Let's limit it to those 4 that we've discussed and let the public choose which is gonna be the best.
Provided that public.
And then we will worry about the funding the next, that'll be
So
tacked on.
the
to
first
the
one
next
with their checkbook out gets to pick the name? Is that what we're saying?
We're doing a lottery.
Well, we are trying also to get citizen input, because we want to include the citizens, because this exit is not just Rancho Santa Fe. This exit is a 4th exit for the city of Kingman,
Yeah,
and that's what I think is important.
I'm
So,
with you.
okay,
I'll second your motion.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 4, public hearings. 4A, adopt ordinance 1961, RZ 24-0003, Bank Street Rezone A. A request by the City of Kingman Development Services to rezone approximately 16 acres from rural residential, RR, to community business, C2, located on the east and west sides, of North Bank Street, north of Keno Avenue and south of East Gordon Drive, to establish a defined commercial corridor consistent with the city's adopted 2040 general plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on January 8th, 2025, to consider the request. The commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval based on their findings made in accordance with Section 2-50.020.c.4 of the Kingman Zoning Code. Staff has prepared an ordinance for council consideration in accordance with the recommendation. Staff recommends approval. Jason, welcome again.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight are actually 2 rezones, so you'll have one back-to-back. The presentation will actually cover both, but we'll actually be taking separate motions at the end of the public hearing. So, again, before you tonight is the Bank Street rezone, rezone 24-003, also encompassing rezone 25-001. As you're familiar with the area, this is the Bank Street Commercial Corridor. There's already properties that are zoned C2, as well as a couple that are zoned C3 in the area. That'll be shown on the next slide. This is a commercial corridor that is shown on the city's general plan, the 2040 general plan. And as you may recall, back in 2024, you had directed staff to come back and initiate a staff-initiated rezone for this area to allow for additional commercial opportunities and to further the commercial opportunities within this corridor. So as stated, this particular project was reviewed back in January 8th, 2025 by the Planning and Zoning Commission to rezone the properties from RR to C2. That's shown in the pink hashed areas. Those are the parcels that are in effect. And again, because this is a joint presentation, there was a remaining parcel that's C2 that's in the yellowish color. That actually went before the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 12th, 2025, also rezoning from RR to C2. The reason that particular property trailed was that we had to actually write a legal description for it, and it wasn't done in time to take it forward in the January meeting. As shown on this exhibit, you would have a mixture of C2 and C3 properties upon approval of the rezone. And again, this is consistent with the regional commercial designation of the general plan, which is shown on the slide before you. Ultimately, the proposal facilitates a cohesive Bank Street commercial corridor, as I've talked about. The proposal implements the visions, goals, and policies of the 2040 general plan. The proposal facilitates and promotes the development of commercial enterprises to further the city's economic growth and provide needed services to the community and visitors alike. The rezoning to the commercial entity or designation is capable of being supported by the city's existing planned infrastructure, and the proposed amendment would not be detrimental to the public interest, health and safety, convenience and welfare of that of the city. The properties associated with the rezone are suitable in terms of design and location and size in order to accommodate commercial development. There was a neighborhood meeting that was done back in October of 2024. We did do mailed notices February 18th, 2025 for the rezone 24-003. We posted the site on February 8th, 2025, and then also published it in the Kingman Daily Miner. With both of these applications, staff received only one comment, and that was a comment opposing a potential rezone if it was affecting any of the properties that fronted onto Arizona, and that is not the case. Staff did also receive one phone call that was they were in support of the rezone. It was a family member that was representing a trust, but they were supportive of the commercial opportunities that could be forthcoming. Based on the findings contained in the staff reports, again, this does require 2 public hearings for each case, but rezone 24-003 and rezone 25-001, the applications that would ultimately change the zoning on the property from RR to C2 for 17.93 acres is recommended for your approval this evening. That concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Questions for Jason? Seems pretty straightforward. Thanks, Jason. Okay, if no questions for him, let's open a public hearing.
So Mayor, can we designate that this is the public hearing for the first one, the
Right.
RZ 24?
Right, this public hearing to adopt ordinance 1961-RZ24-003, Bank Street Rezone A. Is there any public that would like to comment on the adoption of that ordinance? Okay, seeing none, we will close that public hearing. I think there's no other comments or questions that need to be said from council. Can we have a motion approving item 4A, adopt ordinance 1961?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. 4B, adopt ordinance 1964-RZ25-001, Bank Street Rezone B. Request by the City of Kingman Development Services to rezone approximately 1.93 acres from rural residential RR to community business C2 located at the northwest corner of North Bank Street and Coronado Avenue with the Bank Street Commercial Corridor situated north of Keno Avenue and south of East Gordon Drive. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on February 12th, 2025 to consider the request. The commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval based on their findings made in accordance with section 2-50.020.c.4 of the Kingman Zoning Code. Staff has prepared an ordinance for the council consideration in accordance with the recommendation, and staff recommends approval. As Jason just mentioned, his explanation covered both ordinance 1961 and also ordinance 1964. Any questions, council? Okay, seeing none, let's open a public hearing. We open a public hearing. Is there any comment from from the city, from our residents for this ordinance, adopting ordinance 1964? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council, can we have a motion adopting item 4B, adopt ordinance 1964?
So
So,
moved. Oh, sorry. I'll
Smiley
second. I'll
makes that
second.
motion.
I'll second.
And Vice Mayor will be the second. Without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, council. Item number 5, department reports. 5A, legislative update. Turn some time over to our city manager, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to turn it over to Tom Dorn, our lobbyist. Thank you.
Welcome, Tom. Tom, you're muted.
Come on. All right, how's that?
Great.
Okay. Hello, Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm here to give you a legislative update, and I know you're already dialed in from your time with our Kingman Day at the Capitol last week. And so it was, I thought it was a tremendous success. You were able to have some good meetings, good discussions, and meet with some good agency representatives. I did have a follow-up. I did see Becky. I don't know if she's in the room, but I did see her the next day when it was Chamber Day at the Capitol, and we were able to talk about our meeting that we had with the Office of Tourism and Route 66. And so look forward to where that collaboration goes. So if there's anything that needs to be done down here in Phoenix at the Capitol and working with the Office of Tourism and others, let me know. And I thought we had a really good discussion with the Commerce Authority and clarified some things on what they're working on. So I think hopefully we can build on that with Keith Watkins and the Commerce Authority for the inland port, try to take that to the next level. And one of the things we discussed about the whole land exchange that others like La Paz County have done. So to help in that area. So I think that's something we could probably talk with the federal team about. And overall, I just thought it was pretty good. And I thought we had a really good time. It was a good event. And also with regard to things that have happened in this week so far, what we're dealing with is a little bit more discussion on the budget is starting to pick up a little bit. We've actually had even today, Governor Hobbs on Proposition 123, that's the issue on the state trust land revenues for education. While that doesn't affect Kingman directly, I mean, it's the schools it does affect. And that is a big sticking point with regard to budget negotiations moving forward. But it appears that the governor is starting to move towards what the Republican legislature wants. As far as capping the number at a certain, not increasing the number on money taken from the trust. So that could be a huge movement in trying to get a budget going sooner rather than later. So we're not here till the end of June at the Capitol. And that help, if we can agree on those numbers on a front end, that helps with the opportunities for projects. You know, we have our road projects that we have submitted, and then other dollars for other services that our legislators could fight for. So that's a positive thing, positive on the budget front. The legislature has started, the Senate is starting to hear House bills and the House is starting to hear Senate bills. And that's a good thing. They're trying to wrap up getting all the bills out of each chamber. They're trying to get that done this week, but it's, you know, it's difficult. Gone are the days of working through the night, it seems like. So everybody's gotten soft, I guess. They want to go home at night. And so it's just the way it is. So these deadlines are they're soft. And hopefully all the House bills will be out of the House and vice versa. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, things that as follow up to our day at the Capitol, as well as pending issues.
Thanks, Tom. Council, any questions for Mr. Dorn? Okay, Tom, we appreciate you chiming in and being able to participate tonight. And we have no questions here, so have a good evening, and we appreciate all you do in representing Kingman.
You got it. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Have a good evening. Okay, 5B, National Citizen Survey Presentation. Turn some time over to Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Let me just pull up my presentation. All right, I am here tonight to give you a presentation on the 2024 National Community Survey report that we did. The survey was randomly sent out to 5,000 Kingman residents. We sent it out the end of October, and they had until December 11th to return it. They could either return it via mail, they could do it via the internet, or they could drop it off at City Hall. And out of those 5,000 residents, we had 737 Kingman residents respond, which gave us a response rate of 15%. We've been doing this survey since 2018, so we've had 5 years now of response rates to compare to. And as you can see, our highest response rate was in 2019 at 26%, and since then it has gone down, with this year actually being our lowest response rate. The reason we did this survey was to gather community input on government services. It also set out to assess Kingman's overall quality of life and what residents ranked as their highest and lowest priority. It also compared current results to those from 2 years ago, because we asked citizens some of the same questions 2 years ago. We saw a lot of improvements over 2 years. I will be transparent though, a lot of our ratings are still below the national benchmark. However, from 2 years ago, from our own survey, we saw a lot of things come back at least 6 percentage points higher. One of those was our economic health. Residential feedback rose 36% over the past 2 years in terms of economic health in our local economy. For example, respondents were asked whether they would recommend Kingman as a place to work or how they view the city's overall economic development services, and compared that to 2 years ago, that raised 6%. Mobility actually rose in regards to CART. It rose 25% over the past 2 years. Public safety, our residents fear our overall quality of our public safety has risen in the past 2 years, specifically when it comes to fire prevention and disaster preparedness. Residents responded by more than 40% in favor that they believe the opportunities the city presents in regards to engaging in areas such as education and culture and the arts have actually increased. And if you look at those numbers a little bit more in public safety, residents feel that fire, floods, and other natural disasters, they feel safer than they did in 2018. With economic growth, several economic indicators have improved, with residents rating the economy's impact on family income over the next 6 months higher than the national average. Many of these measures have also shown upward trends compared to the previous survey. Like again, I said, in education and arts, the results have shown that there are a strong increase in community support for our cultural events, music, and art programs. And with quality of life, continues to be a strong point with our residents, reporting high satisfaction and a deep commitment to staying in Kingman for the next 5 years. On the declining side, our overall quality of our utility infrastructure declined a little over 8% over 2 years. The main areas of decline were in utility billing and the electric and gas rate structures. For city parks, the overall quality of our parks declined over 2 years by 11%. However, I do want to note that as our parks did decline, despite that, more than half of respondents remained satisfied with the overall quality of our parks, and actually came in number 2 for our overall positive quality in all areas. And then street lighting and repair both declined slightly from 2 years ago. While street repairs only declined by a percentage point, street lighting declined by about 15% over the past 2 years. Mobility challenges were evident with our street repairs and lighting. Items related to natural environment, including recycling, yard waste pickup, water resources, and cleanliness, were rated lower than other smaller communities of our size. Park and recreation, just over half of residents rated overall quality of parks based on the paths and walking trails and fitness opportunities. Those were actually rated positively. Where they ranked a little bit lower was when it came to the overall quality of recreation centers, facilities, and other opportunities. In health and wellness, indicators revealed significant gaps. Just under 4 in 10 residents positively rated overall health and wellness opportunities in Kingman. 3 in 10 or fewer residents gave positive remarks to the availability of preserving health services, affordable quality health care, and affordable quality mental health care services. Community design emerged as a key focus over the next 2 years for our residents, with 2/3 of residents identifying as it important for the city to focus on, and yet only 3 in 10 feel that the current design or layout of our residential and commercial areas is positive. We did ask 3 custom questions. The first question we asked was, please rate how important you think each of the following is improving the quality of life in Kingman. The top 3 respondents that got over 80% were water resource sustainability, ensuring long-term preserving of water resources, pavement preservation, maintaining a comprehensive street maintenance and repair program, and housing affordability and availability, which addressed the growing demand for affordable housing options. The next question we asked was, to enhance the quality of life in Kingman, additional funding may be required. How much do you support or oppose an increase to the following sources? And with that, we found that citizens, 40% of residents favored a project-specific bond, whereas they were hesitant more about property tax or sales tax, with only 31% saying they would somewhat support a sales tax increase and 29% saying they would somewhat support a property tax increase. When you look at the results, you'll see that there's a lot of division within the community, with a notable percentage of residents undecided or hesitant about tax-based solutions. And then the final custom question we asked was, please rate how important you think each of the following amenities would be in a city-owned recreation event. The survey results revealed that the top 2 amenities that over 50% of residents want include in a future recreation or sports event were the multi-purpose event space, which would include a venue for sporting events, concerts, rodeos, racetracks, and graduations, and then pools and aquatic facilities, dedicated space for swimming, aquatics activities, and water-based recreation. And that is the end of my report. I will take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Sarah? It's a lot of information gathered in to digest, but it does make a statement on what our citizens would like to see. So thank you, Sarah. Okay. Moving on to our agenda, item 6, announcements by mayor, council members, and city managers. City manager, starting with Manager Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick announcement. I know at our last meeting, there was some discussion, some concern on how soon some of the equipment that we were purchasing at the time would get here. I just am happy to report that the hydrovac trailer and the backhoe have both been received, and that the dump truck is en route. So they're either here or on their way. But other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Councilor Walker.
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Savage.
I just want to ask a favor of our citizens and everybody in this city and community. This last weekend was terrible, with a couple motorcycle accidents with some deaths and serious injuries. Something happened on the 40. Please slow down. Be respectful of your drivers. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes to get anywhere in this town, and just be careful and thoughtful of each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ward. Councilor Saley.
Hopefully I'm not taking your announcement on kayak.
No, actually, I have a number of announcements, but kayak is one of them, so please, make that announcement. That'd be great.
I just wanted to give a huge shout out to our new Kingman Youth Advisory Council. They had a very successful bedding drive, and they gathered boxes of bedding that will go to Sleep in Heavenly Peace to provide beds and bedding for children who do not have beds currently. They also had a coat drive that was incredibly successful, and then those will be shared throughout the community with different organizations. So for their very first fundraiser, they did an amazing job. And then on top of that, this Friday is their first park cleanup. They adopted part of Centennial Park, and the kids are going to go out and do a cleanup, and they're going to do regular cleanups at Centennial. So I'm really proud of them. For a new council, they are really killing it. So good job, and good job, Annie. You're really helping support them and give them some direction. Thank you.
And on that, I would say ditto to everything you said. And of course, thank those citizens who made those donations. I think you said that too, but yeah, thank the citizens that donated to Kayak and helping their project. So thanks. Okay, Councilor Dykens. Vice Mayor?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Are you serious? You're gonna leave all this up to me, huh? Because last week we had a busy week. As Mr. Dorn mentioned, a number of city council and the vice mayor and myself went down to, last Tuesday, down to the legislature and just had a presence down there, met with our legislators, and it was a great day, a busy day on Tuesday, and we were excited to do that. And we just wanted to make sure our legislators are working for our best interests in our city and to help, protect certain things that we need here in the city of Kingman. Councilor Saley already mentioned Kayak on Wednesday. I was able to attend CAMA, which is the Kingman and Mojave Manufacturing Association out at the Industrial Park. And it's a great organization, and I wanted to make sure that we as a council had a presence on there. And so I decided I'm going to start attending that more often. And then most importantly, and I want to recognize our vice mayor, on Sunday, there was the 41st Annual Awards of Women Making History, and this recognizes women and the great value you are to our community and all that you do, and probably making everything happen in Kingman. And our vice mayor was awarded recognition, was given a recognition for professions, and I want to just congratulate you again on that. And of course, we have past recipients also in our presence. Councilor Saley back in, when was it, Councilor? Back in 2020, a little bit ago. And our city clerk, Annie Meredith, was also, 2 years ago in 23? And that's just a start. But if you were to look at this list, and of course, once this, as I said, 41st annual, there are so many great women, and I know a lot of them, and I am thankful, again, for what you do and how you make a difference in our community. I know Vice Mayor last council meeting read the proclamation, because March is recognizing women making history in our lives, and just want to once again thank you for all you do. Then one thing we do have coming up this week that is a great thing, as always, is First Friday downtown here. So please make your plan to attend that if you're in town. And there's so many things going on in our businesses downtown, and support them. That's all I have for tonight. Item number 7, council requests for future reports and updates. Anything? Okay, I do have one. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Dykens.
Is this where you can request something on the agenda?
That you'd like to see staff look into and maybe place on the agenda? That's correct.
Other than staff, well, I guess maybe Tim or Carl could be considered staff. I don't.
Yes.
Not to beat the dead horse, but help me with the legal eagle stuff here. Point of order or whatever. There still seems to be confusion on that motion and how we voted or can vote or when can we vote. And I may be incorrect at this, but I think the only way to truly straighten this out and make sure it's done right is request that item be put on the next agenda.
As a motion to reconsider that vote.
Correct.
And what was that? The name change?
And the name change, it was 3 things. Name change,
funding source,
and the city paying for it if we didn't get donations.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. I have had a number of citizens contact me, and we are proud of our town and, of course, Annie Devine Avenue. But because we are coming up on the 100-year anniversary of Route 66, we also would like to recognize the fact that Annie Devine is Route 66. And so they have said, it has been mentioned about renaming Annie Devine Avenue to Route 66. And I told them, well, I don't want to forget Annie Devine. And we've seen this in other cities where they'll have a big name, and it'll be what their new name they've changed that avenue to, but they also have the smaller name underneath it to remind people of what that name was. And so I would like staff to take a look at that. Of course, don't even want to think about what the cost would be. But I would like that to be considered. Vice Mayor?
I would like you to include the cost of what that name
That's what I
change
just
would
said.
be, please.
I know.
Clarifying.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'll chime in next meeting.
Okay. I think that's it. If there's nothing else, we don't have executive session tonight, so we are adjourned. Everyone gets.